There's a question I'm often asked. Why is the church in the West not more persecuted? And I sometimes reply, it doesn't need to be persecuted because it's doing a good enough job of killing itself. There was a Polish history professor back in the days of the Cold War, and one day he was called in to see the Minister of the Interior. And the minister said, I want you to write me a report that tells me how to kill the church in Poland. How do we neutralize Christianity as a force here? We're fed up, having to share power with the church. And he added, think the unthinkable. I want all the options on the table. Well, the professor got to work, and the first thing that occurred to him was, why not just kill all the Christians? The minister did say, think the unthinkable. Physically killing all the Christians, although it would involve genocide, it should solve the problem, shouldn't it? But as he began to research church history, he discovered that the tactic had been tried many times before, and it had never worked. The problem was, you killed a few Christians, then the rest dived underground, where you couldn't get at them anymore. And, even worse from a persecutor's perspective, Christianity originally was an underground religion. It doesn't just survive in catacombs and caves and in homes and remote valleys. It thrives and revives. So the professor discarded that tactic as counterproductive. Otherwise, the government would unwittingly revive the church. So he began to puzzle over the question again. But he didn't get very far. Some months later, he was visiting a famous university town in Britain, and he decided to go along to a church that had a remarkable history, where the giants of the English Reformation had thundered from the pulpit and changed the nation. He said, I went in with fear and trembling, because what would I find? And would I come out realizing we could never hope to neutralize the church? But he said, I came out with a huge smile on my face because I had just seen how to kill Christianity. As he went into the church, someone put a dusty hymn book into his hands and mumbled about not sitting on the left side of the building where the roof leaked. The church was sparsely filled, maybe 100 scattered around a church that could have seated over 1,000. An organ drowned everyone out during the hymns. Everyone sang as if terminally ill. A preacher read a dry, abstract sermon to a stained glass window. And when, at one point of the service, they had to greet each other, no one smiled or met his eye. And when the service finished, the people scuttled out. So he came out with a huge grin on his face because he said, I had the answer for the minister. The point was not to destroy the church, but to keep it in such a form that no one would want to join it, just like that church. And he said, these Christians had managed to make Christianity so unattractive, so boring, so irrelevant, that no one would want to join them. And they had done it to themselves. They had killed the church, and they never even knew it. We don't know what the professor's report said in the end, but it's no secret what he would write. Because throughout history, persecutors have had at least 4 main tactics to try to drain the life out of the church. They mess with the message, they promote paralyzing people, they compromise the community, and they support a suffocating structure. Remember, their aim is not to try to destroy the church, but to keep it going in its most unattractive form, or in a form that is attractive, superficially, but it's not really the church anymore, drawing people to Christ. Now, wouldn't it be ironic if we killed our church and we never even knew it? This is where the persecuted church can help us. If we understand how they are persecuted, then we can realize the ways we might be doing this to ourselves. So when we become aware of it, then we've got the chance to unmask the strategy and not to follow it, but to reverse it. And in its reversal comes revival, comes health, comes thriving. I think the Western Church has to develop a much more dynamic relationship with the persecuted church. Perhaps even to the extent of realizing that we're all part of the persecuted church. The difference is simply one of degree. Wherever we are, we're in a battle. Wherever we are, a persecutor is after us. Wherever we are, there are forces of evil that want us to make a mess of church. And the persecuted, if we look at the extreme forms of the persecuted church, they highlight what the persecutor is up to. And we can be confident that if they're trying to stop that church in Pyongyang, in China, in Africa, in Latin America, they're up to it here as well. Just because we live in the West and we have religious freedom doesn't mean to say we're not a target of the persecutor. We are. But the persecutor has a very brilliant tactic, and that is he kind of asks us to try to do it to ourselves.